Immediately after the August 5th, 2012 massacre at the Sikh Gurdwara in Wisconsin, Valarie Kaur traveled to Oak Creek. As an activist, she was there to help. As a filmmaker, she documented the immediate aftermath in an incredibly moving short film. Today, Valarie works as the Director of Groundswell, a multifaith movement for justice at Auburn Theological Seminary in New York City. And this weekend, Valarie is back in Oak Creek for the one-year anniversary of the shootings. Valarie Kaur, welcome back to State of Belief Radio.
Thank you so much, Welton.
Valarie, the two characteristics of the Sikh faith that always come to mind first are peace and hope. How do you see peace and hope being manifest on this sad anniversary in Oak Creek?
What has been the most powerful and moving thing for me to witness is how the people of Oak Creek, especially the young people, have responded to this tragedy not with anger or fear or even simply sorrow, but they've found ways to turn that grief into love, into hope, and into service in just the ways you've described. I think the most powerful thing to me immediately after the tragedy was sitting in the Gurdwara on the Sunday after the shooting as the congregation came together to pray, and they prayed for each of the people who were killed on that Sunday morning, but they also named the gunman, Wade Michael Page, and prayed for his soul. I think that kind of forgiveness, just days after this incredible massacre, really embodied the Sikh spirit of Chardi Kala, this idea that we must find everlasting optimism and ever-rising high spirits, even in suffering, especially in suffering. And 1 year later, I see that the community has continued to wave the banner of Chardi Kala. I see how the young people of Oak Creek, these young sons and daughters who lost their parents in the massacre, are actually the ones planning the anniversary events. And so I look to them, I draw inspiration from them, and I feel so proud of the Sikh faith and that this is a moment where we can show America writ large what our faith is about.
I know some of what kind of impact that event had on you personally. What was it like for you to be in Oak Creek right after the shootings?
It was a deeply raw and emotional experience for me. I was transported to when I was a 20-year-old college student after September 11th, and a man I considered my uncle had been murdered in the first hate crime after 9/11. I felt as I did then. I felt helpless and small. I felt despair. But something different happened after Oak Creek. When I was with the community and with the young people of Oak Creek in the hours and days after that massacre, I realized that for the first time in American history, our community had entered the spotlight, that the nation's cameras had turned to us, that they were asking us what our faith was about, what our struggle was about, what our community was about, and that there was this outpouring of love and support from all corners of this country. Thousands of people wrote in letters of hope and solidarity. Groundswell received these messages and presented them to the community. Hundreds of people attended vigils across the country. Flags flew at half-mast. Thousands of people then signed petitions to stand with the community, asking the FBI to track hate crimes against Sikhs. It was a coming out moment, if you will, for the Sikh community. And so for me personally, I felt deeply humbled to have been able to play this role in helping the community not only respond to the incredible attention they received, but organize for change. And I think that's the untold story of Oak Creek, that yes, it was incredible bloodshed for the community. Yes, it was an American tragedy, but the untold story is how this community responded not just with love and forgiveness, but organizing successfully for lasting social change.
Valarie, a lot of people don't know the Sikh religion as well as you do, and you know it much better than I do. Did what happened at Oak Creek represent so much of Sikhism that if this event had happened somewhere else, it would have been a similar response? Or is there a uniqueness about this particular Gurdwara and its congregation?
Welton, I was just sitting with Lieutenant Brian Murphy, the police officer who was shot 17 times when he showed up that morning to defend the community. And he told me that 1 year later, he is so profoundly changed by the way the Sikh community has responded that he doesn't believe he's ever seen any community respond in this particular way. I think that if this shooting had happened in California or Texas or New York, and it happened inside of a Sikh house of worship, that the community would have responded just as they did here in Oak Creek. That our faith, the very heart of our faith, is Ik Onkar. God is one, humanity is one, and this oneness extends to all of us, even those who harm us. And so for the next day, the community to rise up and say, we respond with love, we respond with peace, we respond with prayers and forgiveness, and we call for an end to hate, not just against Sikhs, but against all people. I think that was the heart of the Sikh faith presented to the American public. And I think for a lot of young people too, a lot of Sikh-Americans especially, it was a moment where we began to understand how to live our faith here and now in America. It was a profound moment for all of us.
Were you looking forward to going back, or was there a little bit of dread?
I'm smiling, Welton, because you asked just the right questions. I think the part of me that felt dread was the part of me that knew I would be drawing close to grief. It was the part of me that knew that I would have to sit next to Punjab Singh, who is still in the hospital after being wounded that day, still unable to move or speak. I would have to hold his hand and tell him that we are praying for him and that we love him. I would have to look into the eyes of Kamal Sani, who is still weeps when he mentions his mother's name. The grief is so raw for him and his younger brother. They lost their mother, they lost their world. I knew that drawing close to grief would be difficult. That was the part that is always hard for anyone. But the part of me that part of me was quickly faded when I realized that I was also drawing close to love. That over the course of the year, I have come to know and admire these young people and these families in New York. And not just admire them, but love them. And that the relationships that we have are such that they inspire me to do what I do every single day. So yes, I came back home to Oak Creek to grieve with everyone, but more than anything, I came to be re-inspired.
You've talked about the impact the service had on you. What's made the biggest impression? Was it that moment, or what's the biggest impression on you returning to Oak Creek?
The biggest impression, as soon as I arrived, I saw Amardeep and Pardeep and Kamal and Harpreet and Sandeep, these young folks who lost their parents. They have been working around the clock for the events this anniversary weekend. That their response to the tragedy was not to spend this weekend continuing to grieve, which I know they will, but channeling that grief into service. That they're the ones who are actually planning the 6K Memorial Walk and Run, that they're the ones who are planning the vigil, that they're the ones who are taking onto themselves that the best way they could honor the memories of their mothers and fathers is through service. And when Harpreet and Kamal look at me and tell me that what they want to do with their life after Oak Creek is become police officers like Lieutenant Brian Murphy so that they could protect others the way that they weren't able to protect their mother, I feel like, my goodness, that is the lasting legacy of Oak Creek. How to look in the face of hate, how to experience the depths of grief and respond with this call to serve and love others. I think if that's a story we can tell to the American public, that can have ripple effects far beyond Wisconsin.
We've got to take a little break, but we'll have more with Valarie Kaur in Oak Creek, Wisconsin, as we mark the one-year anniversary of the mass shootings at the Sikh Temple there. You'll hear from one survivor and from a man whose heart was changed. I'm Welton Gaddy. You're listening to State of Belief Radio.